I think it was near the end of my career after the litany of injuries where I was starting to think about life after football. Where would it go? No idea. The paradigm started to be more about how can I provide for a family without having to run full speed into other large humans, because this is a dead end. So growing up, I was one of the wild childs. If I was born, a couple years later, they might have fed me Ritalin to calm me down. But instead I was sent to summer camp in Missouri for a month, and maybe thinking that 1 month of really hot, full of activity would set me for the next 11 months to calm me down. Who knows? I grew up on a skateboard. There's footage of my dad pushing me around. That was my first pursuit, was skateboarding. Sponsor me videos to Vans and Surfing West and Simi Valley, and it was all about the next big trick, the next big staircase, And I think it's a lot of where the athleticism started. And my mom would agree that I am who I am today because of all the time I spent jumping off of buildings or, learning things on a skateboard. I have an older sister, 19 months apart. She was always loving, always supportive, more than I would deserve. We all went to the same high school. She was 2 years apart, in that sense, 2 grades above me. And I got to play on the senior football or the varsity football team as she was the senior cheerleader and the captain.
37 at the offside against the Huskies.
Territory, and that's Chad Kackert territory. He takes the pitch, and see you later, Chad Kackert, the Southern Section's leading scorer with the touchdown. And now
It's interesting looking back at your life pursuits, and not to say that I'm old. I know I've probably got a long way to go, but at 30, I can look back at my high school days and think about how important football was. It's really interesting looking back because even going into college, that shifted. You think that's just the way things are. It's just all passion. It's a pursuit of passion. It's about being a champion. And then you look back, it's like, well, maybe it's about a little bit more. Your life starts to expand into other priorities, whether they're relationships or finishing school. And for me, it was still more about football than it was about whatever else. The end of college, I was pretty beat up. I was tired of having such a regimented schedule. I was tired of having no free time and what felt like no social life. Finally, when football ended, it was like, it's over. You would never think that. If it was high school, it'd be like, that's over? That was the last game I'm ever gonna play? And in college, it was like, well, that's it then. That was fun. Now I don't have to hurt anymore. And a couple months went by. I was like, I want to do that again. I want to go back. Thanks for the breather. Now let's go back. And that's when I decided, instead of pursuing a career as a phys ed coach right out of college, why not try and see if the NFL would work out? So I trained, foreshadowing, to make it to the NFL. It's not just about playing football. It's about doing the combine, which is a test of physical events. Right? How fast can you run? How high can you jump? How hard can you push? And so I trained for that, for these specific fitness tests, and smoked it. Got enough out of that test to get noticed by some NFL scouts and get an agent. And next thing I know, I was in Jacksonville wearing number 40 as one of the newest members of an NFL football team. How did that happen? Next thing you know, I'm out there signing autographs in Jacksonville. Such a wild turn. So the paradigm was still the same at that point. It was like everything goes through football. Maybe the shift was in like, it's not about being the starter winning championships. Now it's about making the team. And pursuing this dream, which is somehow now at my fingertips of being an NFL football player. And then it shifted again, as you get into it was still about making the team. I went into the Canadian League, made the team, and then it changes based on your circumstance, I think, and that can be related to anything you do. However you're involved in a certain thing, even way back in high school, I'm sure 99% of the team didn't care as much as I did about football, and so maybe for them it was like, maybe if I get on the field tonight, that girl will notice. It's a different paradigm. And so when I got to the CFL, it was about like, I have a career, I have a stable life now, maybe, as much as it can be in sports. And then when you get your opportunity to play and perform, then it's about, how can I help my team win? How can I be a leader? How can I step into this new role now that I've established myself?
2nd and 2. Kackert finds a hole. There he goes. Kackert left side, turns the corner, and it's a touchdown.
Oh, and more. Chad Kackert, touchdown Argos.
Chad Kackert rumbling. 20. He's going to score. Touchdown. Chad Kackert. Touchdown Argos.
Just a brief history of my career in Toronto. 2011, I made the team and rode the bench that season. 2012, new staff, new quarterback. It's the 100th year of the CFL. And our running back on the team was leading the league in rushing yards. And as an American, I wouldn't dress as a backup. I was the second string running back, but I wouldn't dress because of the ratio in the CFL. They cut our running back after week 6 out of the blue. It was on a bye week. Head coach called me, pretty much told me it's your shot. And without saying it, it was like, it's your shot or you're out. And so the pressure was on. That was the season that we won the 100th Grey Cup.
Calgary 17-yard line. Back inside Kackert, a hole. Cinches it back and they'll pinch it. Kackert trying to crease.
And at the end of the game, I was awarded the MVP, and again the paradigm shifted, because now it wasn't about making the team, it was about getting paid, because I was apparently the best running back in the league. I wasn't, but it was like I should be paid because we won the Grey Cup and I was responsible for helping out and doing my part. The next season, I think it had a lot to do with the new contract and the expectation changing. I loved having to fight to prove myself. The way I played changed. Didn't never mean for it to, it just changed. In practice before the Eastern Final, so we just had to win one more game, we're going back to the Grey Cup. In practice, it was just a unfortunate turn of events. I got hit funny, but I laid on my back and picked up my leg, and my foot was on wrong. It was pretty much like, if my foot was up this way, it was that way. 2 years before I played again. And wasn't really ever sure I would, but I stayed up there for love, to be honest. I took a job as a strength coach, made about 10% of what I was making as a player, and was willing to really sacrifice anything just to stay close to her. And then she left. And then it became about reproving myself. So as much as it hurt, and as I would say depressed as I was, I had something to reach for again. And that gave me some life. I didn't do it right. I drank too much. I had issues. But the next season came around and they still gave me another shot. I mean, that's a long story, but somehow I ended up back on the field, and I felt the redemption back in Winnipeg. Played really well. Got player of the game and sobbed in the end zone when everyone had left. The stadium was pretty much empty, but it was just like, I finally got it back. To me, it was more about like, I hope she saw. And she might have, but that never turned out. But at least it was something to aim for. But yeah, that injury was bad. And the doctors pretty much said, you should just try and play because it's never going to be the same. Short story, my foot was on backwards. 2 years went by before I played another game. I was training by myself. I was going to go back to Toronto for what I figured would probably be my last season of playing. And it just seemed like the more I kept doing the same training that I'd done to get to where I was, the more it just beat me up. It's like, I can't get beat up doing what I'm supposed to do, which is going to beat me up. This should be making me feel better and stronger and more powerful. And so Brian had asked me to try CrossFit with him secretly. He's like, don't tell Brad or Travis or anyone that I'm doing CrossFit. I don't want to get made fun of. He took me to Crosstown CrossFit in Moore Park and said, hey, you're going to do this workout, and it's only 7 minutes long. There's a 75-pound barbell. And I was like, you've described a warm-up to me, Brian. I had a big ego going in there. What I didn't know was that this was part of the CrossFit Open in 2016, and that hundreds of thousands of people were doing the same workout. When I found that out, I was interested. And I was like, so this is a competition, and I can compare my score to 400,000 people? I'm in. Give me the bar. Let's go. So the workout itself was 7 minutes of really light snatches and bar muscle ups. And it was 10 snatches, 3 muscle ups, and I did the math in my head. It was like a round of that, if you're going really fast, should take less than 30 seconds. So I looked around the room, and I was like, that guy, what'd that guy get? And it was Greg, the owner. He got just shy of 10 rounds. I just was like, he didn't hold a good pace. That wasn't fast. And so when I went, I was like, I'm going to do this first round in 30 seconds. Sure enough, 28 seconds. Hop off, go grab the barbell. And about 4 reps into that second set, I was like, this bar doesn't feel like 75 pounds anymore. This bar feels like it's 125 pounds. And why are my hands shaking? And why can't I breathe? And then I went to do a muscle up, and I physically could not. I could not do a muscle up. I didn't know what was happening. And I was, at that point, a certified strength and conditioning coordinator. I knew everything about strength and conditioning, I thought. But I couldn't tell you why I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't lift 75 pounds off the ground effectively, and I'd only been exercising for less than 90 seconds. Couldn't explain it. That was where my life changed. And I didn't know it at the time. I realized that there was something I loved and knew a lot about that I knew nothing about. And when I left, it was humbling, of course. The story is I got 3 rounds. So I did 1 round in 30 seconds, and the remaining 6.5 minutes, I did 2 more rounds. That's how that went. So, as a runner, it'd be like, hey, I'm going to run a marathon, but I'm going to do the first mile in 4 minutes and 2 seconds. The next 25 miles aren't going to go so well. So when I left, I realized, like, hey, what if it's okay to be wrong? And that was the shift. That was the paradigm shift, where it was like, instead of being so stuck to what you've been told, why not just open your mind? And if you're wrong, you might actually learn something. God, it was such a weight off my shoulders. Anything I held a grudge about or I had an opinion against, it was like, actually explain that to me. I might learn something. And I have been a happier person ever since. The best thing that's ever happened to me was finding out I was wrong. The more I explored CrossFit, the more I understood how little I knew about something I loved. But what I didn't know was how safe CrossFit was if you did CrossFit right. And so I learned that was the responsibility not of the athlete, but of the coach. And when I learned that and how effective it could be, because guess what? My ankle started to move better than any doctor said it would. And it was by following the prescription and the methodology of CrossFit. And so when I found that out, my life changed. And if I could relay that information to more people, their lives would change for the better. There's 1,000 ways to coach people, and I've been through a lot of those iterations. When I first started coaching, it was very little to do with what I knew about CrossFit because I was still learning. But I do remember a woman coming in who had never done CrossFit before. She was tatted up. She was beautiful. She was probably in her mid-30s or early 40s. And she just said, look, I've tried everything. I don't seem to enjoy it. It doesn't seem to help. She was early for class, so I was like, okay, we have squat snatches today, which is the most complex movement you can do with any weight. So let me just spend 10 minutes with you on that. Now, if it was now, I'd approach that differently, but I spent quality time with her. And that's what mattered to her. Fast forward, it might have been 4 or 5 months, maybe less. But I was in the gym between sessions, and she came up to me and she goes, I just want you to know that now is the first time in my life I've been off antidepressants, and I don't need them anymore. Whoa. So, and it wasn't that she learned how to squat right. It wasn't that she, decreased her mile time. It was that she found that she had autonomy for her life. Like, she could make decisions that would help improve her outcome. And she was engaged to be married. Her kids were, all growing up and doing well, and they seemed to be generally happy. Was it CrossFit that did it? No, but it was her discovery of her autonomy. What we do, the community I work for and live in Dallas, is one of the tightest, most forgiving, most accepting, most open and diverse places I've ever been. And it's not because we have this like intentional mindset to go out and be diverse and be accepting. It's just because it's who we are. And so I'm a little torn up by people being so torn up. I've got to taste a little bit of competitive fitness, and it's a lot of fun. It's afforded me the opportunity to travel to Argentina and Australia. So competitive fitness is a lot of fun, and that's why I pursue it. I'm not making money on it. It's not like football was to me. I get to choose if I want to play in the game or earn the right to play in the game. When it comes to potentially qualifying for the CrossFit Games, or whatever they're going to be called, it's something that I am interested in. I know that to qualify, I have to be more than interested in it. I know that it takes 4+ hours a day of training, even on rest days, because you need to be so intentional about how you recovered, because you've been so intentional about how you've beat yourself up to that point. And it takes a lot of selfishness, which I'm not sure I can afford, but we'll see. The legacy I would like to leave is that whoever I ran into, whoever's path I crossed that day, it made their day a little better. My name is Chad Kackert, and I am unfinished.